He wasn't supposed to die that night. That's what kept circling in my head. My grandfather had been sick before, sure, but this time, he had smiled at dinner, made a joke about my cooking, and even insisted on finishing the dishes. I thought we had time. We always think we have time. But just a few hours later, he was gone. Quietly, in his sleep, like a candle that flickers once and then just fades out. In the days that followed, as I sat in his room surrounded by things that still smelled like him, I kept thinking about the 5 strange things he had done in the weeks before he passed. At the time, they just felt odd. Now, they feel like quiet signals, soft warnings dressed in normal moments. And the scariest part? Most people miss them. Type yes in the comments if you've ever looked back and realized a loved one was saying goodbye without saying the words out loud. The first strange moment came 2 weeks before he passed. I remember it so clearly because it felt out of character. He handed me his favorite pocket watch, the same one he'd refused to let anyone touch for over 30 years. "You should keep this," he said, softly. "I won't need it much longer." I laughed, awkwardly, brushing it off like the silly old man joke. But he didn't laugh with me. He just smiled. That deep, tired kind of smile. I didn't know it then, but this is something hospice nurses talk about a lot. People quietly giving away their most cherished belongings, not out of confusion, but with a quiet purpose. It's like a part of them knows, not the body, the soul. If you've ever seen someone give things away before they left this world, comment yes below. You're not alone. And no, it wasn't random. Then there was the humming. At first it was sweet. Grandpa sitting in his recliner, gently humming a tune I didn't recognize. But then he did it every night. Same tune, same quiet rhythm. And one night I asked him, "Grandpa, what song is that?" He looked at me for a long time before saying, "It's the one I used to sing to your dad, back when he was a baby." My throat caught. I had never heard it before, but somehow it sounded like home. Experts say people nearing the end often revisit emotional anchors, songs, stories, places, not just for comfort, but to relive what shaped them. He didn't say much those days, but that tune, it said everything. Have you ever seen someone act in a way that didn't make sense until it was too late? Type yes if this is resonating so far. You're not imagining it. The third sign, he stopped complaining. Let me explain. My grandfather was a perfectionist. If the soup was too salty, you'd hear about it. If the light bulb flickered, he'd fix it instantly. But in the final week, something changed. The soup was cold. He thanked me. His back hurt. He smiled and said, "It's okay." It's like all the small frustrations that once ruled his day just faded away. As if he'd found peace, or maybe peace had found him. Hospice nurses say this is something families miss all the time. When someone stops fighting life's little annoyances, it's often because their focus has shifted inward. They're preparing. And their silence is not always calm. Sometimes it's a storm that's already passed. If this sounds like someone you loved, type yes in the comments. There's comfort in knowing others have seen it too. Then came the strangest moment of all. One night I found him awake at 3 a.m., just sitting in the dark, staring out the window. "Couldn't sleep?" I asked him. He nodded slowly and said, "Just waiting." "Waiting for what?" I asked. He didn't answer, just turned his eyes back to the stars. That night stuck with me. It haunted me. Because after he passed, I realized he was waiting, Maybe for a sign, maybe for the courage to let go, or maybe just for the right moment. There's a quiet kind of wisdom in the elderly that we only understand when they're gone. Have you ever caught a loved one lost in thought, staring far away like they saw something you couldn't? Type yes, even if it was years ago. These signs, they weren't traumatic, no grand gestures, no teary speeches, just tiny threads woven quietly into the fabric of everyday life. And now, every time I think back, I pull on those threads and wonder, how did I not see it? But maybe that's how love works. It shields us from the truth until we're ready. And sometimes the people we love leave the world as softly as they entered it, whispering goodbye while we sleep through the meaning. If this touched something in you, let me know in the comments. Type yes, not just for me, but for the memory of someone you still carry in your heart. The fourth thing he did was tell me a story he'd never told me before. It was a quiet evening. The sun was low, painting the walls gold, and I was sitting at his bedside reading a magazine when he suddenly asked, "Did I ever tell you about Maria?" I shook my head. Maria wasn't my grandmother. He'd never mentioned her. "She was my first love," he said. "We were 17. She loved the rain. Said it made her feel clean again." He chuckled softly, but there was something behind his eyes, like a thread of memory unspooling after decades of silence. He told me how they had plans to run away, but life got in the way. War, work, family expectations. He said, "Sometimes your heart remembers things your head forgets." I didn't understand the weight of that story until after he passed. But now I realize people nearing the end often open up in unexpected ways. They revisit moments they've buried, not to relive the pain, but to release it. That last confession, it's not for us, it's for them. Their way of laying down emotional baggage so they can leave lighter. Have you ever heard a strange or sudden story from someone just before they passed? Type yes if you know exactly what I mean. And the fifth strange sign, he started noticing little things. And I don't mean casually, I mean deeply. Like the color of the flowers on the porch, the sound of the wind against the windows, the feel of my hand when I handed him his tea. He said, "The cup feels warmer than usual," one morning, as if warmth itself had become fascinating. I thought it was sweet, maybe just a quirky old age moment. But then I saw it more and more, a kind of reverence for everything. Hospice nurses often say that as people near the end of life, their senses heighten, but not physically, emotionally, spiritually. They begin to savor life's smallest offerings as if they're tasting the world one last time. A sip of tea, a familiar smell, the softness of a pillow. It's not always dramatic, it's often quiet. But if you're paying attention, you'll see it. And if you've ever watched someone slow down and look at the world like it was brand new, comment yes below. That was their soul saying goodbye. I remember one morning, near the very end, when I brought him toast with a bit of apricot jam. He took one bite and closed his eyes. He said, "This tastes like 1952. I laughed, but later I cried, because that was the last thing he ever ate. That small bite of toast, simple, sweet, became a doorway back to a memory he never explained. But I didn't need the explanation. His smile told me everything. It told me that even at the end, life gives us moments, quiet, golden ones, moments that stitch time together and let us say farewell in our own private language. So if you've noticed someone appreciating things a little too deeply, looking a little too long at a sunset, or pausing just to feel the wind, type yes. You're not imagining it. You're witnessing a soul whispering its final goodbyes. And now, as I look back on all 5 signs, the gifts he gave away, the songs he hummed, the peace he found in silence, the stories he finally told, and the beauty he noticed in ordinary things, I no longer feel confused. I feel honored. Honored to have seen his goodbye up close. Because maybe, just maybe, death isn't always a thief in the night. Sometimes it's a soft shadow, one that lingers for days, weeks, even months, before it finally leads someone home. So what do we do with this knowledge, this quiet understanding that death doesn't always scream, but whispers? I think about that a lot now, about how my grandfather never once said goodbye, and yet, in those last strange, beautiful days, he said it 1,000 ways. Through every song he hummed, every old story he dusted off and shared, every kind gesture that didn't need explanation, he was speaking in a language only the heart can hear. And maybe the reason we miss these signs is because we're too busy listening for the loud ones. But if we slow down, just for a moment, we might notice the peace in their eyes, the stillness in their routine, the way their presence starts to feel softer, like a candle slowly dimming. Not gone yet, but ready. And there's a strange kind of beauty in that, because when you recognize these quiet clues, you're given something rare: time to be present, to say what matters, to listen more closely, to love more intentionally. That's the gift. That's what my grandfather gave me. So if someone close to you has been doing things that don't quite make sense, don't brush it off. Don't wait until the moment passes. Pay attention. Hold their hand a little longer. Sit beside them a little more quietly. Say the words you've been meaning to say. Because sometimes we get a warning, not to cause fear, but to invite presence. And presence in those final moments is everything. If this video spoke to you, please type "I'm listening" in the comments. Let others know they're not alone. And if you've ever witnessed a goodbye you didn't understand until later, we'd love to hear your story. Your voice matters here. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. We tell stories that matter, for those who matter most. Until next time, take care of yourself and of those quietly saying goodbye.